Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Darylyn and today we are counting down the top fanciest, schmanciest, bougiest, most expensive fancy philodendrons on the market. Now, before we get into it, I do want to give you just a little bit of context. I did try to rank these in order from least expensive to most expensive regarding like the entry-level price point to get any of these plants in like a starter size plant. So we're talking about like a 4-inch kind of pot, like a plant like maybe like, you know, this big. And to put that in perspective, if you're gonna go to a garden center or a plant store and buy a kind of more common run-of-the-mill philodendron at the same size, you're probably looking at a price point more so around $25 on the high end. I personally would probably classify anything that would cost about twice that kind of common plant price as fancy. So common plant entry-level point, $25, maybe down to 10 or 15 depending on what you're looking at. Fancy plants start at maybe like $50. These plants are in the hundreds and up to thousands of dollars. So it really is interesting to see what kind of plants go for those kind of prices. And then one more thing before we get into it, those of you who stick around to the end may find that you are rewarded for your time and attention. All right, let's get into it. These are the top fancy philodendrons. Okay, so for the first plant on our list today, we have the philodendron red moon. Now, these plants are really, really beautiful. I believe this is a self-heading philodendron, meaning that it doesn't need to be on a moss pole or a support pole in order to continue to grow and mature. The kind of hallmark of the philodendron red moon is the brilliant red variegation that is contrasted with the yellow before the leaf fades down to its ultimate green color. I don't see very many of them for sale, and I don't know if that's because they are not super popular or because they really are rare, but from what I have heard, they're not very stable. So even though when you do see striking ones, they're very, very beautiful, they are kind of known to be a little bit unstable, so kind of like more of a risk. And of the pricing that I could find, recent sales for the philodendron red moon, you're definitely looking at mid triple digits to get into the market on this plant. The listings that I saw were about $500 to $650, but these were not for tiny plants. These were for larger, more established plants. These do seem to be fairly rare. I don't see them come up for sale very often. They're very, very cool, but I could see how these are kind of maybe not for everyone's taste. So already starting out, first plant, you're already in the mid triple digits. Very cool plant. Let's see what else we've got in store. All right, so next up we have the variegated philodendron MELANOCHRYSUM. I looked around quite a lot to see what kind of examples of this plant were available in the market, and really nice ones with nice balanced variegation are very rare. For a specimen like that, you're probably looking at mid triple digits to get into the market for a very small plant. I would say the 4-inch size pot on the entry-level MELANOCHRYSUM with variegation, mid triple digits is a good estimate of where the market currently is. The listings that I found for this, I saw one that was a very nice specimen for about $600. Now, these actually used to go for a lot more. I remember when they first started popping up on the scene, they were kind of considered a unicorn and thousands of dollars for sure to import these. I think part of the reason that the prices have come down a lot on these is that MELANOCHRYSUM in general are just notorious for being difficult plants to grow if you don't have like a tropical or a greenhouse environment. They're difficult plants to mature. So I think that naturally, as people kind of shy away from the regular version of the MELANOCHRYSUM, they don't want to take the risk on the variegated one. Also, variegation pattern on the variegated MELANOCHRYSUM is kind of almost like army camo pattern-y, which is not like the typical like contrast that you see on a lot of variegated plants. So I think it's really cool. I don't know that I would probably pick this up if I had the chance to. I really like the traditional MELANOCHRYSUM, and I honestly like haven't really had a ton of success with that. So I think that this would be a pass for me, but I can just imagine how insanely incredible a really large, like thriving specimen of this would be, and I would love to see one eventually. I wasn't able to find any examples online while I was doing research, but $600 entry-level price, that is definitely a fancy plant. So coming up next, we have the BURLE MARX Mint. Now, this is actually like a relatively new entry to the plant market. I really hadn't seen these really being talked about or for sale at all before maybe the summer of this year. They're very beautiful, and especially if you like mint, I think they're a great option because Philodendron BURLE MARX are notorious for being really easygoing plants. They grow really well. They put out tons of growth points. They'd be easy to propagate, easy to take care of. That actually also tells me that even though as of right now you're looking at upper triple digits to get in on this plant, the prices probably will not stay that high for very long. The listings that I found were mostly to import this plant, which I am not keeping import prices in mind with this list. This is specifically like plants domestically available in the United States. And I did find a listing domestically in the United States that was posted recently for $750 for a 2-leaf plant, and it was a pretty nice looking specimen. So even though these are kind of a hot unicorn right now, the price point isn't astronomically high like it would have been if these had come out a couple of years ago. I actually think these are gorgeous. This is like totally right up my alley, but I don't think that I'm interested in that price point for these at this time. I would definitely trade for one. If somebody was willing to trade for one, I would add this to my collection in a heartbeat. I think they're very cool, but that price is just not a good investment, I don't think, because these plants are so easy to propagate. Like, that price is gonna come down. So next on the list, and I think this is gonna be kind of a controversial placement, because up until very recently, these plants were kind of considered the absolute top dream unicorn plant, and that is the Philodendron caramel marble. Now, these plants are absolutely breathtakingly stunning. They sun stress pink. They've got a very interesting leaf shape. Like, these plants are, for some people, the be-all end-all #1 dream philodendron. And they used to be priced as such. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago, you couldn't get in on one of these plants for less than, you know, quadruple digits, thousands. I would see really large, impressive specimens listed for like $15,000. They were really, really up there with some of the most expensive plants out there on the open plant market. There's just not that many people left in the plant community who have the kind of money to pay what caramel marbles used to go for, who don't already have one. And so nowadays, you actually see entry-level caramel marbles, like 1-leaf mid-cuttings, under quadruple digits for sure. I've seen them as low as 500. I see them for 800. And it used to be if you were getting a plant that low, it was because there was something wrong with it. Like, it was a mid-cutting with an all-white leaf, or, you know, there was some sort of risk to it, or it was like a tissue culture, or something that wasn't just like a ready-to-display, like set it on your shelf type of plant. That's not really true anymore. I saw an absolutely beautiful one. It was a little bit on the juvenile side, but a beautiful specimen the other day for sale for $800. That would have been completely inconceivable only a year ago. So while that is still a very fancy plant, it's nowhere near at the point it used to be. I think recently I saw like a nice, you know, showpiece caramel marble with nice balanced variegation and some of the lower growth already starting to sun stress in the mid quadruple digits, which is a ton of money, but for what they used to go for, it's not even close. All right, so next on the list is the Philodendron Persimmon Princess. Now, I am not gonna lie, I don't know a ton about this plant, and to me, I think that it is probably one of those plants that you're really only super interested in it if you are a collector of like a very certain type of philodendron, and you kind of gotta catch them all, so to speak. The pricing for these was pretty consistently in the mid like $1,000 American dollars. So I saw a number of plants in the past, you know, few months or so listed for or sold for around $1,500 for like a decent sized plant. I didn't see any that were like a 4-inch pot size small one, or I didn't see any nodes. They were all like, you know, decent sized plants. I don't know. I think I'm kind of ambivalent on these. I feel like there's so many other more striking versions of things that look really similar to this. So I don't think that this plant is for me, but people do really love them. I think it's kind of like a love it, you see the value, you see the uniqueness, or maybe you don't. I think that there's much more striking options out there, but this plant is definitely a lot more rare than a lot of the other like royal princess type philodendrons. So maybe that is part of the appeal. Yeah, I mean, $1,500 is still pretty fancy in my book when it comes to a plant, especially a philodendron. So next we have a plant that I think might be another controversial placement. And it's definitely something that's had a fall from grace because, again, like the caramel marble, this plant has been in the past like an ultimate unicorn of unicorns. And that is the philodendron golden dragon variegated. And don't get me wrong, these are absolutely incredible. They are so striking. I honestly think this might be one of the plants on here where I like see like why it's worth it, why they cost this much, because I mean, they're absolutely show-stopping. Unique leaf shape, and the variegation on these, I have a feeling that most of these are probably from like a very limited amount of sports, like maybe even like tracing it back to one plant, because I feel like the variegation on a lot of these golden dragons, you never see like super marbled ones. They're always like really sectoral, and they're also really notorious for being highly unstable. And so when you do see really striking, spectacular specimens, they're really, really, really expensive. Prices on these have come down a lot, but you're still looking at like $1,000 to $3,000 entry level for like a one leaf cutting, depending on the quality of the variegation. If you are getting a top cutting, it's probably going to be, you know, closer to the higher end, that more so than a mid cutting. I mean, yeah, like these are absolutely show stopping. Like if you can get to the point with one of these where it's growing and it's sizing up and it's happy and the variegation isn't browning, I mean, I can hardly think of another plant that would be more of a showstopper than this one. All right, so up next we have the variegated Billietier. Now, this may be yet another surprise for people that this is kind of in the middle of the pack as far as pricing goes, because these used to be an absolute unicorn. And I mean, you were looking at like $5,000 to even get in the door on these plants, but they've been propagating more. They have become more available. And in conjunction with just plant prices in general going down, I have seen pretty decent specimens of these, entry-level pricing around $1,000. One thing about the Billietier is that like the sky is kind of the limit on these, because these plants can get so enormous and the quality of the variegation really ranges. Like you could be looking at $12,000, $15,000 for a really big conservatory level specimen with amazing variegation, down to, you know, $1,000 for like a small, I would say that, yeah, like a small 4-inch pot size specimen. The $1,000 price point is about where they are right now. I think these are absolutely beautiful. Not all specimens of these are really created equally though. There are some that are absolutely just beautiful, well balanced, minty, a little bit of pink sun stress here and there. Then there are other ones where they really do the like sectoral leaf, green leaf, sectoral leaf, green leaf, which isn't my personal preference. But yeah, these are cool, and I would definitely have one in my collection if the opportunity came up to trade for one, or if eventually the pricing continues to go down, because I do think that they're that cool, and I've had pretty good success with the normal version, but I'm not paying that. Not now. All right, now we're coming up on another one that I think people are going to be really interested in, the placement of this, and that is the Philodendron ILSEMANII. Now, this plant, another one that had its moment as the be-all, end-all, absolute unicorn of the philodendron world. And I mean, for good reason. It really is just, man, these ones, like the nice specimens of these kind of just blow your socks off, because they literally just look like a white leaf that's covered in confetti. And they kind of have like this bluish kind of tint hue to them almost in some places. And I just remember the first time I ever saw one of these just thinking, oh my God, I've never seen such a beautiful plant. And I still am obsessed with these, and I would really, really love to have one eventually. These are kind of tough because originally they came from Australia. And if you know anything about how like Australia kind of fits into the international plant market at large. It's really difficult to import plants into Australia, and it's really difficult to export plants out of Australia. So while they're much more common down there and much easier to get a hold of, they're really, really hard to export. So in addition to just being eye-droppingly beautiful, the supply has always been really low. That is starting to change now. Back in the day, I saw a really large, beautiful 12-leaf ILSEMANII go for $25,000, I think it was. Nowadays, the entry level like baby plants, I would say the 4-inch pot baby plants, they go for about $1,200. And I have seen bigger type mother plants go for about $7,000, but I don't think anyone is anywhere near that $20,000 plus mark for an ILSEMANII. It would have to be a plant that was probably at least 20 plus leaves and pretty mature, and I'm sure whoever would be buying that would probably be buying it with the intention of propagating it and making their money back. But it's tough though on those really big specimen mother plants, because how many people are really out there that can afford to pay $1,200 for, you know, a cutting of a plant? So I think that's part of the reason why the prices are coming down. The supply is going up, but there's just not enough people out there that can afford to pay the prices where the plants are. So as a result, prices come down. I love these. I think that they're amazing, and I hope the prices keep going down because I want one. Okay, so we are starting to come up kind of to the upper echelon of these plants. Like, these are the plants that you can't get in on them for less than quadruple digits. And the first one I want to talk about is the variegated silver sword. Now, I absolutely scoured the internet looking for listings for this plant, looking for mature specimens, looking for pictures. I could not find a single picture of a mature variegated silver sword that had, you know, that was more than just one leaf, really, that had nice variegation. These are really, really new to the market. They've really only started circulating within the past year and change. I could not find any listings for them less than $2,000. And that would be for a tiny baby plant. Like, I'm not even talking 4-inch pot here. I'm like tiny baby plant. These are really cool plants because the silver, they also have a really unique leaf shape. I kind of feel like the silver is kind of like a you love it or you don't kind of thing. Like, I'm kind of ambivalent to it. Like, it's fine, but I don't think that I would go out of my way to pay more for a variegated silver plant or for a silver plant. Yeah, $2,000 to get your foot in the door on these variegated silver swords. We don't even know what they're gonna look like when they mature, because whoever has these plants, they're not putting them on social media. Kind of an enigma, to be honest. I would say these are still kind of considered to be unicorns because there just are not very many available. And the ones that are available are all risky because they're all really tiny little baby plants. And since there's not that many of them available, who knows how stable the variegation really is. So I would say that this is the kind of plant that really only a really serious collector or someone who's running a business where they're making like multiple investments into these kind of investment specimens should be going after right now. But honestly, with the plant market on the downward trajectory, like, I don't think it's a really good idea to make big investments like this right now. That's just my opinion, but very, very, very cool plant. Like, I can't deny that. And also, I do think one of the interesting things about this plant is it is one of the ones that there's like an extreme discrepancy between the price of the normal version, which you can buy, you know, a big, beautiful, lush silver sword at a box store in America, at least for, you know, like the $25 to $35 range. Variegated one, $2,000 minimum. It's kind of mind-bending, to be quite frank. So moving on to another heavy hitter, we have the Philodendron Firebird. Now, this is really a rare plant. I have seen very few listings for these over the years. I went back and looked through, you know, years and years of listings. You really only see them pop up every once in a while. And you also never see them pop up as like tiny little plantlets or offshoots. They really are being sold as full plants. Because the listings for these are so few and far between, it is possible that this price range is out of date. But for these plants, entry level, you're looking between $3,200 to $5,000. And these, I think, really are just like a gem of a collector's plant, because from what I can tell, they look like they're a self-heading plant. Self-heading philodendrons, in my experience, are just a little bit more complicated to propagate because there's just less space between the nodes. Really, really cool plant. I would love to see one of these in a conservatory, like a really spectacular one. I don't think it's something that I would probably invest the money in for my own collection. Very, very cool though. And it's not a common one. It's really not one that's brought up a lot. So I think it's really cool to include it here. Next, we have actually a group of plants. And this is a little bit this is a little tough because there is like a really wide range in this group, and that's the variegated philodendron Congos. So of those, that would be like the philodendron green Congo variegated, the philodendron red Congo variegated, and I actually even did recently see somebody who had posted that they had a sport that spontaneously happened under their care with the philodendron Congo, and the plantlets were all coming out of this plant like mint, like full leaf mint. So that's really interesting. These are actually like one of the few that are still considered to be unicorns and still considered to be really expensive, and people are still paying a lot for. I think I have, like, I couldn't find the listings in the past. I think I have seen anecdotally like nodes go for over $1,000, specifically for the variegated red Congo. And the one listing that I found recently was for a really large mother plant, and it was $9,000 that they were asking for this really large mother plant. I mean, it had spectacular color, spectacular variegation, but I mean, that's a lot. $9,000 for a plant is a lot. I personally think that the variegated red Congo is gorgeous. I love it. And I guess also I should probably like mention the variegated philodendron black cardinal in here. I don't think it's a Congo, but it's really similar, and it looks really similar to the philodendron red Congo. And it's also, I think, like, it's also really pricey up there. I couldn't find any listings for it, so I didn't like formally insert it, but another one that's really expensive. But I think part of the reason why the red Congo goes for so much is that it is rare, but it also tends to have a lot of like intermediary colors. Like, it'll have the dark red, but then also it'll have like the cream that has a little bit of a red tint and some intermediary colors in between, and it's really striking. Yeah, I would add that to my collection if I could. It's exactly up my alley. All right, we are rounding out this list, and this is really getting serious now. So here we have a controversial one, and that is the philodendron MICANS pink variegated version. Now, the reason that this is controversial is because the regular variegated MICANS can actually be turned pink with chemicals. So there has been a little bit of debate of people being like, is it even worth it to ever try and buy one of these because of the possibility that it could be fake? And I honestly, like, I can't like enter that discussion. I guess like if you're looking for one of these plants, it's just gonna have to be up to you to decide whether or not you trust the person you're buying it from. But the variegated pink MICANS is real. It does exist. It was found in the inventory of a plant shop, I think in Chicago or Illinois, in the past year. There's pictures and accounts of when it was found. I don't think very many of these from the verified plant, like the verified discovery of it, have been sold. And the listings that I did find when the person who found the original plant did propagate and sell it, it was like $4,000 for like a little baby one leaf cutting. And I mean, if you know philodendron MICANS, like $3,000, $4,000, $4,500 for something like that, I mean, that would be really nerve-wracking because they're just such little tiny delicate plants. And then, you know, to root it, like the nodes are so tiny, and like that would just be so nerve-wracking. But they're absolutely what dreams are made of. At least my planty dreams are made of. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. And you know, with the dark velvet philodendrons, and they kind of have that like sparkly sheen to them with the pink, and it's like it's difficult to comprehend that that is something that was created spontaneously as a mutation in nature. So I understand the price tag on that, especially since it's a new thing and you have to be careful who you buy it from. I mean, I guess I understand it, you know, like whether or not it's justified. I haven't seen any come up for sale in a while. So if they ever do again, they will probably not be that much. But I would say that, yeah, the pink variegated philodendron MICANS is still a unicorn. It's still up there. All right, second to last. And some of you might be a little surprised that this isn't number one, but wait and see what number 1 is and then you'll understand. So this is the variegated gloriosum. These plants used to go for absolutely insane exorbitant prices. I think that there were multiple specimens of these that were sold like a year and a half ago for about $50,000. They are absolutely stunning when they are thriving, and the leaves on gloriosums are like pretty easy to size up. So I completely understand like why people love these and think these are amazing. $50,000, I mean, at that price point, you're a nursery or some sort of plant business acquiring that as an investment to propagate and sell on. That's not probably gonna be something that a collector is spending money on. I mean, if so, then that plant would probably never see the light of day again. It would probably just be kept and, you know, conserved by that collector. Prices on these have gone down a lot, and it was really, really difficult to find listings for them domestically in the United States. There's a lot of import options. I did see a listing for $25,000 for a really large plant. It was a really beautiful plant, but it looked like it had been sitting for a while. It might have been on Etsy, actually. I don't remember, but it didn't look like there was like a mad rush to pay that price for that plant. I also found another listing for about $6,500 for a much smaller plant. So, and these are not, you know, sales that have happened this week. So it's possible that those prices could go up or down depending on if another specimen hit the market and the quality of it. But yeah, I mean, they're still really expensive, but they're not going for $50,000 anymore. I would honestly probably say that the prices on those will stay high for a while because there's just not that many of them. And of the specimens that you do see, you can tell that they're pretty unstable because there's a lot of like plants that have leaves that are like fully green, and then there's like one big chunk of sectoral white variegation. And at least in my experience with growing things like Albo monstera and like trying to propagate things like strawberry shakes, the plants that have like big patches of sectoral variegation tend to be less stable than the ones that are marbled and have like balanced color throughout the leaf. So yeah, I mean, interesting. It'll be interesting to see like where that goes and what kind of specimens hit the market in the future on the variegated gloriosum. I think I would have one if I could trade for one, or if the prices came down. I love my gloriosum that I have. I'm a sucker for variegation, and I think a lot of people are, so it makes sense. But with that in mind, we are coming to our last plant, our number 1 fanciest philodendron as of right now on the market. Keep in mind, if you're watching this in the future, all of this is subject to change. It is currently November of 2022. And as of right now, the absolute fanciest, schmanciest, bougiest, most expensive, craziest philodendron that I could find that is available on the market is the variegated philodendron Spiritus SANCTI. Now, these seem to be available primarily from one seller who I guess must have just hit the jackpot when tissue culturing them. And you got it. Like these plants are so eye-poppingly beautiful, but it's also just really surprising to me that variegated philodendron Spiritus SANCTIs are like hitting the market and the specimens look so good. Like they're so well balanced and speckled and so striking. When these plants were first announced and they were first offered for sale to the public, you know, anybody could just go on the website and buy one. These were being listed for $25,000 each, which is that is a lot. And I think that that's probably because the seller knew that as soon as the plants were sold, whoever bought them would be competition. And so they knew that they were only going to be able to probably sell like 1 or 2 at that price, and they really needed to cash in. That I feel like was like much earlier this year, or maybe it even was like the end of last year. I don't remember. But now the same website has them for $15,000, and they're they're not big plants, but they're not like tiny plants. They're, you know, like intermediate juvenile plants, and they're all beautiful. They're beautiful. It's crazy that now in 2022 we have beautiful variegated philodendron Spiritus SANCTI going for the same price that the regular plants used to go for back in like 2020. Like, it hasn't been very long. It just goes to show that, you know, the market changes and like how fast the market changes. So yeah, those are absolutely incredible. I love the variegation on them because it's like very like speckly and spotty. It kind of looks like a ILSEMANII variegation, or kind of reminds me of like Jose Bono too. And there are examples of the plant on the website that have like pink sun stressing, which is really, really pretty. So I would say, yeah, of the like really expensive plants that then a variegated version is put out, this one I would give like a 10 out of 10 for, yeah, the variegated version of it definitely takes it up a level. It's not just like, oh, you know, variegation for the sake of variegation. It's beautiful. I mean, congratulations to that nursery. That's beautiful. Like, I don't know if they give out like plant awards, but if they gave out plant awards for like the best new plant, new cultivar or whatever, I mean, like, that guy should win. But yeah, man, $15,000. Whew, that is up there. That's like the down payment on a house in some places. 15 grand, man. Wow. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this little deep dive. I hope you got to find out and learn more about some plants maybe you didn't know about in the past. And if there are any plants that you think I should have mentioned and I didn't mention, be sure to leave them below in the comments. There are some that I thought about talking about that I might put in other videos in the future. And also there are some that are not variegated that I thought about including, but the video is just gonna be too long. So yeah, but make sure to leave a comment below and tell me what you think about everything. And I did also promise that if you made it to the end, you'd be rewarded. And so here's your reward. I am giving away a fancy philodendron. It is not as fancy as anything on this list, but I do have this really beautiful cutting from my philodendron strawberry shake that I am going to be giving away to commemorate this video. Honestly, strawberry shakes are just probably my favorite philodendron, or one of them at least. They're so fun. They're so much easier to deal with than pink princesses. They grow really well. They're so fun to watch because the Polaroid variegation, it changes color the older the leaf gets, and they will sun stress pink. This is a cutting from this plant behind me, Queen Celine. So if you are interested in entering the giveaway for this beautiful cutting, all you have to do is leave a comment down below, be subscribed to my channel, and then also go over to my Instagram, which is just @plantfrienddownthestreet, and follow that as well. And I will probably let the giveaway run for like a couple of weeks or so, and then I'll announce the winner. You do have to be in the United States. Unfortunately, I cannot ship internationally. So yeah, looking forward to gifting this to somebody who will be really excited to have her and give her an amazing home. All right, well, that is it for today. It's great to be back. Took a little bit of a hiatus there for a while because life got a little busy, but good to be back. And yeah, make sure to enter the giveaway. You can enter as many times as you want. If you want to leave multiple comments, like, go for it. I'm not gonna check and make sure that like nobody entered twice. So all right, well, that is it from me for today. I hope you guys are having a good one, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.